Welcome back to the Journeyman Podcast, everybody. Episode 43, and we are diving deep into a story that'll really make you think about the justice system. Before we get started, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And for even more amazing stories, you got to check out the Between the Lines YouTube channel. The link is down in the episode description.
You're not kidding about making you think.
Today, we're looking at the case of Kobe, also known as Sleep.
Okay.
He reached out to us from Calipatria State Prison,
Oh, wow.
where he's serving 3 consecutive life sentences plus 106 years.
3 life sentences plus 106 years.
Yeah, you heard that right.
Wow.
That kind of time? That's usually for like the worst of the worst.
Yeah, you would think so.
So what happened? What did Kobe do to get a sentence like that? And could there be more to his story?
That's a huge question.
So we're here to find out. We've got court documents, interviews, articles, all about Kobe's case.
It's like a lot to go through.
It is. It's a lot.
Yeah.
But before we get into all the legal stuff, let's start with the man himself. He's been in prison for 8 years now in what he calls, quote, the worst they got going.
Right.
And you might think someone in that situation would be totally crushed, given up.
Yeah.
But Kobe says he's innocent, and he is not giving up hope.
That's remarkable.
It really is.
Mm-hmm.
He's facing a sentence that most of us can't even imagine, and he still has this fight in him.
Wow.
So let's look at the documents. What do they tell us? Well, Kobe was convicted of conspiracy to extortion.
Okay. Conspiracy to extortion.
But when you dig deeper, there are 2 main points that he keeps bringing up that form the basis of his argument for being innocent.
Okay. What are those?
Number 1, a possible sentencing error. And number 2, the DA allegedly withheld evidence.
Oh, that's not good.
So the sentencing error that he claims revolves around how the DA used something called gang enhancements, specifically California Penal Code 186.2.
186.2.
To tack on those extra life sentences,
Okay.
Kobe argues that this enhancement shouldn't even apply to his case,
And if it doesn't?
and that without it, his sentence should be way shorter.
How much shorter are we talking?
He claims he's looking at more like 3 years, not 3 lifetimes.
That's a massive difference.
It's enormous.
Yeah.
And then there's the issue of the video evidence. He claims there's footage that could prove he's innocent on at least one of the charges, but the prosecution never handed it over.
If that's true, that's a huge problem.
It could be a major problem.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, why would the DA offer his co-defendant such a sweet plea deal if they were so confident in their case against Kobe?
Yeah, good point.
It's like if they had such a slam dunk case, why not go for the maximum sentence for everyone involved?
Right, exactly.
Now, before we go any further, I want to say, we're not lawyers
Definitely not.
or judges. We're just 2 people trying to understand this complicated case.
Yeah.
All the info we're talking about is available in the source material, and the link for that is in the episode description. So you can follow along and come to your own conclusions.
I encourage everyone to do that.
Okay, so let's set aside the legal stuff for a second. One thing that really struck me was the emotional roller coaster Kobe describes going through.
Okay.
He talks about that shock of hearing the sentence, the feeling of despair, even thoughts of violence.
Wow, that's heavy.
It is. But what's really powerful is what he says pulled him back from that dark place. It was a conversation with his 16-year-old son.
16 years old.
Yeah. His son's maturity and support completely changed Kobe's thinking.
That's incredible.
He realized giving in to anger and despair wouldn't do any good, especially not for his kids.
Right.
And from that moment on, his focus shifted.
So how did that change manifest itself? What did he do?
He talks about how much he regrets missing his son's graduations, both high school and college. And he's worried about how his absence has affected his daughter, who he says had a nervous breakdown.
That's a lot to carry.
It's a heavy burden, knowing that your choices had such a profound effect on your family.
It's a lot.
And this is where Kobe's story takes a turn. He's not just sitting in prison feeling sorry for himself. He's trying to better himself and help others avoid making the same mistakes he made.
Okay.
He's turned his experiences into a powerful message against gang violence.
Interesting.
It's really something to hear someone who is so deep in that world speak out against it with so much conviction.
I can imagine.
He talks about the hypocrisy of people killing each other in the streets for territories and colors that mean nothing once they're inside prison.
Yeah.
He gives this example of guys who were sworn enemies on the outside,
Right.
ending up living together peacefully in prison.
Wow.
Makes you think, what's the point of all that violence?
It really does.
To understand where Kobe is coming from, we have to go back to his childhood. He went through a lot of trauma at a young age.
Oh no, what happened?
His father died of leukemia when he was just 7 years old.
7.
And then his mother was murdered the next year.
Oh my God.
He even describes being taken to the crime scene and seeing his mother's body.
That's horrific.
And to make things worse, he didn't have any therapy or support to help him deal with all that trauma.
It sounds like he was set up to fail almost.
It does kind of seem that way. And even though he recognizes that his tough childhood played a role in the choices he made,
Right.
he refuses to use it as an excuse.
That's admirable.
It is. He talks about finding solace and strength in discipline, physical discipline. He's been working out consistently since 1989.
Wow.
He says it's been like therapy for him.
I could see that.
He connects pushing himself physically to his mental well-being.
Makes sense.
And this focus on discipline, it's not just physical. It extends to his mental and spiritual life, too.
Okay, so.
He talks about the power of meditation and compares it to going through darkness to find enlightenment.
Interesting analogy.
It's clear he's been reflecting a lot on his life, searching for meaning. And in that search, he's discovered the importance of human connection.
Okay.
He's deeply grateful for the interviewer's visit and talks about how just having a conversation with no pressure or judgment could sustain him for years.
That's really powerful.
It is. It reminds us that everyone, no matter their circumstances, needs connection and understanding.
Absolutely.
He even criticizes the war on drugs and points out what he sees as hypocrisy,
What's that?
targeting low-level offenders, while pharmaceutical companies, who arguably have more responsibility for the opioid crisis, face much less scrutiny.
That's a great point.
It is a big issue. But despite everything he's been through, Kobe is hopeful. He believes he'll be released in 2025 because of that sentencing error we talked about.
Wow.
His main goal when he gets out, to see his children.
It's amazing what the human spirit can overcome.
It is. It really makes you think about the justice system, about redemption, about second chances. We'll be back right after this to talk more about Kobe's story and what it means for all of us.
So we've got this guy who's absolutely sure he's innocent, facing this mountain of time, and yet there are these little clues about potential misconduct, legal loopholes, even evidence that wasn't given to the defense.
It's a lot to take in, and I think we got to start with that sentencing error he keeps talking about. He says conspiracy to extortion should not be under that gang enhancement, the 186.22.
What I find interesting is he seems to really understand the legal details here, even though he's not a lawyer.
He says he's been studying the law in prison, which makes sense. When you're in his position, you have to be your own lawyer.
You got to be, especially with that kind of sentence hanging over your head.
But is it realistic to think a mistake that big could go unnoticed for 8 years?
It's definitely not common, but it's not impossible either. The system isn't perfect. Mistakes happen. There have been cases where people were exonerated because a sentencing error is found years later.
And then there's the video evidence he says the DA didn't turn over. If that's true, it changes everything. That's prosecutorial misconduct, which could mean a new trial.
Right. And it goes back to that plea deal his co-defendant got. Why would the DA offer a deal if they were so sure Kobe was guilty? It's just weird.
It makes you wonder about the whole thing.
Yeah.
You've got this guy maybe in prison for years for no reason, missing his life, his kids' lives. It's sad.
It really shows how much these errors cost people and how important it is to make sure justice is fair and unbiased.
Let's change gears a little and talk about Kobe's change in prison and his message against gangs. It's powerful stuff, especially coming from someone who was so involved in that world.
What gets me is how he sees how ridiculous it all is, the violence, the killing for something that doesn't matter in the end.
He calls it an ignorant mentality, and I agree with him. He's got this perspective you only get from living through it and see what happens.
Prison forced him to see how wrong his own beliefs were, and that made him think differently.
He realized that the guys he was supposed to fight outside were the ones he connected with inside. The lines got blurry, and he saw the good in people he was taught to hate.
It makes you think how much of that gang stuff is because of other things. Poverty, no jobs, needing to belong.
Yeah.
Maybe if we fix those problems, we could stop the cycle.
It's a big problem. No easy answers. But Kobe's point of view is really important. He's not just talking, he's lived it. And that makes what he says powerful.
And it connects because he's not saying he's perfect. He knows his past, his mistakes, and that makes him relatable even to people who've never been in a gang.
He's human like us, but he's trying to fix things, and that's what's important.
Oh, sure.
Another thing that was interesting was how much he talked about discipline for the body and mind. He's been working out for decades, and he says it's kept him steady focused.
I like how he connects working out to feeling good mentally. He says pushing himself hard helps him get rid of bad feelings.
And he compares meditation to working out, saying they both make you go through tough stuff to get to a clear, strong place.
He's definitely found ways to handle being in prison, and those ways have helped him grow.
And even with all the loneliness and hard times, he's still grateful. He's so thankful the interviewers visited and says just talking to someone, no pressure, no judging, could keep him going for years.
It shows how dehumanizing prison can be and how easy it is to forget you're human. But even there, he finds hope and connection.
And then there's his criticism of the war on drugs, which makes you think about what's important to us as a society.
He talks about how we punish small-time drug offenders, but don't hold the big companies responsible for the opioid crisis.
It's a systemic problem we need to look at. Are we really fixing addiction or just punishing people?
It's a good question, and Kobe's story brings it up.
His case makes us face some hard truths about the justice system and about ourselves.
It challenges our ideas and makes us think about what justice and accountability really mean.
We'll take a minute to think about this, and then we'll be back to discuss what Kobe's story means for us and what we can learn from it. So we talked about a lot, from the details of Kobe's case to how he's changed and what he thinks about the system.
Yeah, it's complex. It makes you think about justice and responsibility and if people can really change.
And what really sticks with me is that feeling of hope in his story. Even though he's got this sentence most people couldn't handle, he's optimistic. He thinks he'll get out in 2025, and he's working towards it.
It's not just him wishing for it either. He's studying the law, fighting for his rights, staying healthy mentally and physically. He's doing what he can, and that's so inspiring.
It reminds you, even when things are bad, we can choose hope, choose to be strong, choose to keep fighting for better.
His story also makes us look past the labels we put on people to see them as humans, to remember everyone has a story and everyone deserves a second chance.
He's not just a prisoner. He's a dad, a son, a person who's messed up, but who can also grow and change a lot.
And we got to remember the justice system should be about helping people become better, not just punishing them. We need a system that gives people chances to turn things around.
Kobe's story really shows what's wrong with the system now,
Right.
but it also makes us think, what can we do? It's like a call to action.
It can feel impossible, but I think we got to start by learning about the problems, understanding how trauma affects people, and what leads to crime in prison in the first place.
And then we use our voices to push for change. Support groups, working to fix things. Talk to our leaders, demand they do better.
Even small things can make a difference. Visiting someone in prison, donating to a program that helps people after prison, just talking about these things with friends and family, it all matters.
It's about making people aware, changing how we see things, and making the world more fair and caring.
For sure.
Kobe's story shows how strong people can be, how they can change, and how important it is to fight for what you believe in.
It's a story I won't forget, and I hope our listeners feel the same.
Thanks for joining us on this journey into Kobe's world. If this got you thinking, please hit that like button and subscribe to the Journeyman podcast for more deep dives into stories that matter. And don't forget to check out the Between the Lines YouTube channel for even more amazing content. The link's in the episode description.
Until next time.
Keep asking questions, keep learning, and keep believing in the power of people helping each other.